Okay, so we're diving into study abroad today.
Lots to unpack.
Yeah, you've sent us a ton of info articles, notes, even some brochures.
It's great.
Really looks like you're thinking about taking the plunge. I mean, a new country, a different culture, who wouldn't be excited?
Yeah, it's exciting for sure.
And honestly, going through all this stuff, one thing that really stood out,
What's that?
a quote, actually, someone who'd studied abroad called it a complete reset button for their life.
Wow.
Right?
Pretty powerful.
It really speaks to how transformative this whole experience can be, and that comes through in everything you sent.
For sure.
So we'll definitely be exploring all of that.
Okay.
Both the good and the bad, help you figure out if it's right for you.
Awesome.
And just as important, we'll break down some of the lingo.
The lingo.
All the terms and stuff so you can navigate the process, confidently.
Makes sense.
We're like your study abroad Sherpas.
I love it. Sherpas of knowledge guiding you to the summit of cultural immersion, I guess.
There you go. I'll workshop that analogy later. But first, let's define studying abroad. I mean, we all kind of get it, but what are we really talking about?
Yeah, good point. It's more nuanced than just hitting the books in a different place.
Right.
It's about fully immersing yourself in another culture, experiencing daily life in a new way.
I see.
And yeah, expanding your academic horizons.
Beyond what your home university can offer.
Exactly. And it can take so many forms a semester or a year, even your entire degree.
Wow. Okay, and speaking of horizons, you highlighted a ton of articles about the benefits.
Huh.
And this one phrase kept popping up.
Which one?
Becoming a citizen of the world.
Oh, yeah.
What does that even mean?
Well, it's about shifting your perspective.
Yeah.
Moving beyond the familiar
Hmm.
and starting to see yourself as part of a global community.
That makes sense.
There was this great line in one of the articles you shared.
Oh, yeah.
It said, I used to think global citizen was just a buzzword,
Yeah.
but living abroad made it real. I started to see issues from multiple angles, not just my own country's viewpoint.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah, pretty powerful shift, right?
Definitely. And that ties into this whole idea of independence that you kept highlighting in your notes.
There you go.
You even circled this quote,
Let me guess.
living in another country helped me gain more independence and learn how to handle challenges by myself.
That's a good one.
Seems like it's not just about where you go, but what you learn about yourself along the way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like a crash course in self-reliance.
Self-reliance.
Think about it. You're navigating a new environment, making decisions, solving problems, all without your usual support system. So what challenges are you hoping to conquer? What aspects of independence are you most drawn to?
That's a good question. Okay, this might sound cheesy,
Court.
but one of the sources described cultural exposure as eating a whole new flavor of life.
Okay, maybe a little cheesy.
Yeah, but I get the point. It's not just about sightseeing, it's about experiencing daily life, right?
Absolutely. And your notes highlight this fascination with street food. So maybe for you, cultural exposure, IS, about exploring new flavors.
True.
One article you flagged even talks about how street food reveals a country's history, its social dynamics, even its sense of humor.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
It is. That reminds me of that documentary you mentioned
Which one?
about the history of tacos in Mexico City.
Yes, exactly. It wasn't just about the food itself, but the stories behind it, the role it plays in people's lives, the connections it creates.
Yeah,
That's the kind of depth we're talking about with cultural exposure.
for sure. And let's be real, for a lot of people, studying abroad is also about, the dream of becoming fluent in another language.
Of course.
One article even called it the ultimate language hack, arguing that immersion is the fastest way to fluency.
It's true. Think about it. You're not just memorizing vocabulary lists.
Yeah.
You're using the language to survive, to connect, to express yourself in everyday situations.
Right.
You even highlighted a program in Spain
Yeah.
that boasts about its language pledge.
Language play.
Students commit to speaking only Spanish while they're there.
Wow, that takes dedication.
Yeah.
But I can see how that level of immersion could really accelerate your language skills.
For sure.
And that actually brings us to the next big piece of the puzzle,
That's that.
choosing your destination.
Oh, right.
In your notes, you wrote, I chose France as my study abroad destination because I wanted to improve my French and experience European culture.
4. France it is.
Well, not so fast.
Oh.
That's a great starting point.
Okay.
But remember, choosing a destination is about more than just the language or even the continent.
Okay, I'm listening.
It's about finding a place that aligns with your personal interests, your academic goals, and even your comfort level.
Makes sense.
Are you dreaming of bustling cities or charming villages, ancient ruins, or cutting-edge technology, spicy food, or delicate pastries?
So many options.
Right. It's
Yeah.
like planning the ultimate adventure vacation, but with the added bonus of, actually learning something.
Exactly. And that's where things get really interesting.
I like where this is going.
But before we dive deeper into destinations, there's another key word you circled in one of the articles.
What is it this time?
Adjustment.
Just...
The author wrote, "The adjustment to life in a new country took some time, but eventually I felt more comfortable."
Yeah,
Seems like a crucial part of the experience, wouldn't you say?
totally. It's easy to get caught up in all the excitement of planning, but it's important to be realistic about the challenges, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, you're stepping out of your comfort zone in a big way.
No doubt about it. Yeah, it's a big jump.
For sure. And some of those challenges might include things like homesickness or culture shock or even just feeling lost in a new place.
Right, all part of the adjustment process.
Totally. The material you sent even mentions something called language fatigue.
Language fatigue.
Yeah, that feeling of mental exhaustion from constantly processing a new language.
Oh yeah, it's real.
Yeah,
Your brain is definitely getting a workout.
no kidding.
Yeah.
So it's important to be prepared for those emotional ups and downs, right?
Absolutely. One of the articles you highlighted had a whole section on coping strategies.
Oh, right. I remember that.
It really emphasized building a support network,
Yeah.
connecting with other students, reaching out to family and friends back home, even finding online communities of people who studied abroad.
I like that. So it's like packing a mental and emotional first aid kit?
Exactly. Knowing what to expect and having tools to deal with those challenges.
Makes sense. And one tool that really stood out to me was the idea of journaling.
Journaling.
Yeah. The article suggested writing down your experiences, both the good and the bad,
I see.
as a way to process your emotions, track your growth, and even create a tangible record of your journey.
That's a great idea. I've heard that from a lot of people who've studied abroad.
Me too. It's like that quote you underlined. At first, I felt like a fish out of water, but by the end of my semester abroad, I felt like I could swim in any ocean.
That's a good one.
It seems like facing those challenges head on is what really leads to that transformation.
Absolutely. And it's not just about personal growth, but also about developing a deeper understanding of the host culture.
Okay, how so?
Well, one of the research papers you shared talked about the stages of cultural adjustment.
Stages.
Yeah. Starting with the honeymoon phase where everything is new and exciting.
Right.
And then moving through periods of frustration, adaptation, and eventually a sense of belonging.
It's like learning a new dance, right?
New dance.
Yeah, at first you're stepping on toes and feeling awkward, but with practice, you start to find the rhythm and move with grace.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
And speaking of navigating a new culture, let's revisit the topic of language barriers.
Okay.
You mentioned in your notes that you're a bit nervous about communicating in French, even though you've taken classes.
Yeah, I mean, ordering a croissant is one thing,
Sure.
but what about having a deep conversation about philosophy or politics?
Right. That's a different level.
It feels intimidating.
I get it. It
Mhm.
can be. But remember, every interaction is a learning opportunity.
That's a good point.
One of the language learning apps you shared had this great tip. Embrace the awkward moments.
Embrace the awkward moments.
They're often the most memorable and can lead to hilarious stories later on.
Haha. I like that. So giving yourself permission to make mistakes and learn from them.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe those awkward moments will become your best study abroad anecdotes.
You're probably right. Okay, so we've talked about the emotional and cultural adjustments,
Right.
but what about the academic side of things?
Good point. You mentioned you're interested in studying art history in France,
Yeah.
and you even flagged a specific program at the Sorbonne.
I did. That program really stood out to me because it emphasizes hands-on learning
Hands-on learning.
with trips to museums, archaeological sites, even private art collections.
Wow, that's amazing.
Right. Way more exciting than just sitting in a lecture hall.
Definitely. And that hands-on approach is something you specifically highlighted in your notes as being important to you.
Yeah, for sure.
It seems like you're looking for an immersive academic experience that goes beyond textbooks and lectures.
Absolutely. I want to learn by seeing, by experiencing art in its historical context. And who knows, maybe I'll even discover a new favorite artist or movement that I never knew existed.
That's the beauty of studying abroad. It opens up a world of possibilities, both academically and personally.
It really does.
It's a chance to delve into your passions in a new way, to challenge your assumptions, and to expand your knowledge base beyond anything you could imagine.
I love that. And, I've noticed that this theme of personal growth keeps coming up.
Personal growth.
It weaves its way through all these materials.
It does. It's almost like studying abroad is a catalyst for self-discovery.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It pushes you outside your comfort zone, forces you to confront your assumptions, and ultimately helps you develop a stronger sense of self. One of the blog posts you shared described it as a crash course in resilience, adaptability, and resourcefulness.
Those are some valuable skills.
There are skills that are valuable in any career, any life path.
You're right. It's not just about the academic credentials. It's about the life skills you develop along the way.
Exactly. And speaking of life skills, one of the practical guides you sent talked about managing your finances while abroad.
Oh, right. That's important.
It is. It can be tempting to splurge on travel and experiences,
For sure.
but it's crucial to create a budget and stick to it as much as possible.
That's a good point. It's easy to get swept up in the excitement and lose track of your spending.
It happens to the best of us.
So do any of the materials offer specific tips for budgeting or saving money while abroad?
Actually, yes. One of the articles suggested tracking your expenses using a budgeting app,
Okay.
cooking meals at home instead of eating out every night, and taking advantage of free activities like walking tours, museum-free days, and local festivals.
Those are all great ideas. It's about finding creative ways to experience the culture without breaking the bank.
Exactly.
And it also ties into this whole concept of slow travel that's been gaining popularity.
Slow travel.
Yeah, really immersing yourself in a place instead of just rushing through a checklist of tourist attractions.
I love that idea. It's about quality over quantity, about savoring the experience and making meaningful connections with the local culture.
For sure. And that brings us to another important aspect of studying abroad,
What's that?
the emotional impact of returning home.
Oh yeah, coming back to reality.
It is kind of like that. That's something I've been wondering about. What happens when you come back from this incredible adventure and have to readjust to your normal life?
It's a big transition.
It is. One of the articles even mentioned reverse culture shock,
Reverse culture shock.
which sounds a bit daunting.
It can be, but it's also a sign that you've truly grown and changed from your experience.
I see.
You've expanded your worldview, developed new perspectives, and maybe even discovered hidden passions.
Right.
It's natural to feel a bit disoriented when you return to an environment that might seem unchanged,
Right.
while you feel like a different person.
So it's like coming back from a journey to another planet.
Another planet.
Yeah. You've seen amazing things, learned new ways of being, and now you have to integrate those experiences back into your earthly life.
I love that analogy. And the materials you sent actually offer some helpful advice for navigating that reentry process.
Oh, good.
One suggestion was to find ways to stay connected to the culture you immersed yourself in, whether it's through language classes, cultural events, or even just cooking your favorite dishes from abroad.
It's like bringing a piece of that experience back with you, right? Keeping that spark alive even after you've returned home.
Exactly. And remember, the growth doesn't stop when you step off the plane. Studying abroad is just the beginning of a lifelong journey of learning, exploring, and embracing the richness of our diverse world.
Yeah, it's like we've been talking about this incredible buffet of experiences.
Right.
But we haven't actually tasted the food yet.
I like that.
What are some real-world examples of this personal growth and cultural immersion?
Okay, well, let's take your interest in art history
Okay.
and that program in France you were looking at.
Yeah.
Imagine yourself standing in the Louvre Museum.
Okay.
Not just as a tourist, snapping photos,
Right.
but as a student who understands the historical context, the artistic techniques,
Yeah.
the cultural influences that shaped those masterpieces.
Okay, I'm already getting goosebumps.
Right.
And it's not just about famous museums, is it?
No, not at all.
Ah.
You highlighted a section in the program brochure
Yeah.
about visiting local artists' studios,
Uh-huh.
even participating in workshops,
That's awesome.
right? That's where cultural immersion meets hands-on learning.
I love it.
You're not just observing, you're engaging with the art scene,
Cool.
exchanging ideas, maybe even trying your hand at a new technique.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And, in your notes, you mentioned this desire to break free from routine.
Oh, yeah.
Well, one of the blogs you shared talks about how studying abroad forces you to navigate everyday situations in a new way.
That's so true.
Even simple things like grocery shopping or asking for directions become mini adventures.
Exactly. Those everyday interactions can be incredibly insightful.
How so?
Well, you start to notice cultural nuances,
Okay.
communication styles, even different approaches to problem solving.
Interesting.
You're constantly learning even when you're not in the classroom.
It's like that quote you highlighted.
Which one?
I learned more about myself from navigating the Paris metro system than I did in any of my lectures.
Haha. Maybe a slight exaggeration.
Yeah, but you get the
I
point.
do. It's about being present, being open to new experiences, and embracing the unexpected.
I like that.
And who knows, maybe those seemingly mundane moments will become your most cherished memories.
You're probably right. Speaking of memories, one of the articles talked about the lifelong impact of the friendships you form while studying abroad.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's like you're all in this adventure together, sharing those highs and lows, creating bonds that go beyond borders.
It's true. You're surrounded by people who are also stepping outside their comfort zones,
Right.
eager to explore, to connect, to share experiences.
Yeah.
These are the kinds of friendships that can last a lifetime,
Oh.
shaping your perspective long after you've returned home.
This deep dive has been incredible.
It has been a lot of info.
It really has. It's clear that studying abroad is so much more than just an academic endeavor.
Definitely.
It's a chance to step outside your comfort zone, embrace the unknown, and discover new facets of yourself and the world around you.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's about fostering independence, gaining exposure to new perspectives, and developing a global mindset that will serve you well throughout your life.
I love that.
And while there are challenges, they're often the catalysts for the most profound personal growth.
So what does all this mean for you, our intrepid listener?
Good question.
If you were to step into that metaphorical buffet of experiences,
Right.
what would you try first?
Yeah. What aspects of studying abroad really resonate with your personal goals and aspirations?
We encourage you to keep exploring, to dig deeper into specific programs or destinations that sparked your interests during our deep dive.
Remember, the world is waiting to be discovered.
It really is. And who knows, maybe someday you'll be sharing your own incredible study abroad stories.
Inspiring others to embark on their own transformative adventures.
Until then, keep those passports ready, those minds open, and those adventurous spirits soaring.
Great advice.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of studying abroad.
It's been a pleasure.